I had the privilege of interviewing someone who's very controversial and interesting, Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson, a wonderful man, very hard to interview because he's so talkative and fecund, and his mind races off in a million different directions. But I asked him questions in a friendly way, not trying to trap him or anything, but I wanted to say, do you believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God, not as a myth, but really as the Son of God and rose from the dead? And he said yes. And then in a later interview, because his wife had embraced Christianity, but she'd been terribly sick. And I said to him, when your wife was sick, did you pray for her? And he said, yes, I did. Now, if you just believe Christianity as a cultural force, you don't pray to God,
You mentioned Niall Ferguson. It's an astonishing thing, isn't it, when a man of that standing makes a statement that he has?
It really is, and it was very kind of him to do it in his interview with me. I mean,
you were first, I think, that he sort of really talked about it with.
He hadn't discussed his conversion, so to speak, on the record with anyone. So I got in touch with Niall and said, look, I understand you and your wife have sort of actually embraced Christian belief, so I'd really like to talk to you about it. And he kind of ummed and ahed a bit, and then he said, oh, okay, that's all right. And he answered all my questions absolutely frankly. And in these interviews, without being a kind of a prosecuting attorney or anything, I really ask people to answer questions that are quite explicit. So he was happy to talk about the cultural value of Christianity, but that's not what I wanted to talk to him about. I wanted to talk to him about his own belief. And he was kind enough to do that. And he told me he'd been raised in basically an atheist household. His parents were kind of, had left the free church and, had embraced scientism and atheism. They're lovely people, obviously, but that was their creed, and he'd accepted that creed. He was a conservative, so he thought religion had a certain value in society, but he didn't think it was true. So there used to be a lot of those sort of conservative fence sitters who would say, yes, I can see the value of Christianity, but I can't believe it's true. That's a perfectly defensible, understandable intellectual position, but I don't think it helps society that much, because you certainly can't say to a young person, I want you to live your life in accordance with something which is completely untrue. It's a very, very difficult...
and to make the sacrifices that go with it, that sometimes a functioning society demands of some of its members.
Yeah. So Niall Ferguson, a very interesting example of a movement of intellectuals. So there's a mass movement of Christian rebirth, but there is also really a movement of intellectuals, reminiscent a bit of the 1930s. Graham Greene, Evelyn Waugh, they came from
Tolkien,
Malcolm
Muggeridge.
Yeah, so Tolkien was a kind of a cradle Christian, but Lewis was a convert to Christianity and had been an atheist. And so these most powerful Christian intellects, many of them had been atheists. And you're having that happen today. And it's not just amongst conservatives either. David Brooks, who you would say is a sort of a, very moderate centre-left journalist or something. Just as I was interviewing Niall Ferguson, David Brooks wrote a piece in the New York Times about how, he's very proud of his Jewish heritage and everything and loves Judaism, but how he has become a Christian. And so he's a centre-left guy, which I think is perfectly reasonable. There's nothing in Christianity which a normal social democrat would find objectionable. So you're seeing a surge of intellectuals embracing Christianity, and then people are influenced by that. And it's a wonderful thing. It's wonderful for them as individuals. It's great for Christians, and it's good for society because it offers real leadership.